Hi class, I wanted to kind of do a summary on the human resource management module that we just finished. Um, One thing I can say is, when I go through the grading, I list names for best practices, and this is the longest list I've had, so a lot of you are really doing well that you had posts that could be used for best practices. Just to give you a couple examples here. Let me jump in. I believe this one is from Emily. Notice how easy it is to follow. She got her question. Describe a situation where you coached or mentored another person to achieve success. She follows the STAR model, clearly marked. It's just really easy to follow. Her use of diet is the same way. Let me show you another one here. I think this is from Jacob. And notice how we got the letters to diet are highlighted. Not only that, as he brings out the key parts of the text here, like for example, they need to perform a job analysis so they can get the job descriptions, and notice he says what job specifications best fit these descriptions. So and that's a quality response, and it's just organized and laid out really well. So great work, Jacob and Emily. You're the best practices for the human resource management module. I want to talk just for a second about job analysis, because job analysis is really important. It's a foundational process for organizations because so many other activities in the organization rely on job analysis. For example, like posting a job description. So the whole selection process starts with job analysis. Job analysis also supports training and development. A couple of things I wanted to expand a little bit. Number one, there are two types of job analysis, and one is the one we're focused on here is what's called a task analysis, and that's where you identify all the tasks related to a job that a person would have to perform if they were hired to do that job. That's probably the most common. So it's called a task-oriented job analysis. There's also what is called worker-oriented job analysis, and what that does, it identifies what are the characteristics for an ideal worker to perform this job. And so it kind of looks at the whole body or collection of workers doing a particular job to find out what characteristics do they have that enable them to perform that job. Now, it is possible to perform a job analysis and focus both ways. It's important that workers understand the purpose of a job analysis, because if they think you are there to evaluate their performance, they usually change their behavior. So it's clear, it needs to be clear to them that it's not about their performance or the performance of any one individual. It's about trying to identify all the tasks related to a job. There are different ways to collect information in a job analysis. There's no one right way, but just to give you an example, probably the most common is observation followed by interviews. Now, when I used to do this in manufacturing, I would go down and walk the line doing observation, and what I'd do, I would create a flow of the work. And then based upon that flow of work, that would help me or provide a structure for the interviews with workers to fill in the details of what they were doing that maybe I didn't particularly understand at the level they did. So observation can really be helpful. Now, not all jobs are easily observed. Some jobs are non-routine. In other words, every day they're doing something different, so you really can't observe them, or it'd take 2 weeks to do observations. So a lot of times what we do is we ask them to keep a work diary, And so the workers would have a work diary, and they would write tasks down in that diary, every task they do that's performed over a couple of weeks. Then they hand that diary, and you take that diary, and that diary becomes a starting point for you to follow up with some interviews and understand more about the tasks that they're doing. Certainly, questionnaires, surveys, especially, excuse me, especially if you're trying to cover a lot of people where interviews would take too long. So your questionnaires and surveys work. Now, critical incidents aren't always necessary, but I think typically they're helpful. And what you do, you meet with subject matter experts, people who are really good at performing this job, and you ask them what tasks, what is it that you do that makes a difference, that matters. And I like identifying these critical incidents because they're really useful in training. Because what they do, the critical incidents make the difference between an average performance and high performance. And so a lot of time, like for example, back when I was working in a manufacturing plant, I would conduct this on training jobs, and that's one of the things that was really important for me to know what made a difference that matters in training. And so we would identify the critical incidents. So I just wanted to expand a little bit on job analysis. As I say, it's one of the most important processes in human resource management because it's considered a foundational process. Now I want to talk I just opened up this morning the motivation module. Let's just take a minute and look at that. Describe a work situation in which you can demonstrate that you encourage the motivation of another person. And then notice it says, given that you can't motivate another person, in other words, that motivation has to come from within, all you can do is create the conditions for motivation. Not too long ago here at Bowling Green, there was an OD conference that was held. It was really good. I highly recommend it. You might look for that next year. And the keynote speaker was Dr. Boyatsis from Case Western Reserve, and he's kind of an expert in this area. And one of the points that he made that pertains to this motivation that's really important, he said that when leaders are attempting to coach and they're coaching for compliance, it tends not to work. That what it actually elicits is resistance. And so what they have to do is they have to create the conditions for motivation to come from within. So a lot of times what he was recommending that as a leader, when you coach, focus on the desired outcome and the benefits of achieving it, so that the worker chooses from within to pursue that desired behavior. And because if you just go in there and try to get compliance, they tend to resist. There was, so the format's the same here. You're going to use STAR on your behavioral interview question. Same way you'll use diet in the IDC challenge. I did want to mention something because I think you all should be familiar with this. It's called classical conditioning. That term comes from psychology, but business uses it too. And what it refers to is learning by association. Now this video right here, the video illustrates it well, because what you have is two college students here in the room, and one conditions the other to respond to a sound. But this classical conditioning is really common. I just want to give you a couple examples, because I know every single one of you are classically conditioned to something. And let me just to start off with, when I smell a pumpkin pie baking, it reminds me of my grandmother when I was a kid, and every time there was a holiday like Thanksgiving, we would go to my grandmother's house, and she would have pumpkin pies baking, and she was known for her good pumpkin pies. And so what I associated the smell of the pumpkin pie baking to her. So when I smell it today, even though today she's no longer here, I smell that, I still think of her. My father worked in a steel factory, and this steel factory had a unique smell to it. And so when he would come home from work, he would smell like the factory. And then, of course, he would change his clothes and shower and all that. But when he first came in, it had this really distinct smell of the steel factory. Now, today, if I drive in the towards, say, the Gary, Indiana, East Chicago, and into the Chicago area where there's a lot of steel factories, and that smell is in the air, immediately I think of my father. It's, once again, a learned association. When I was a kid growing up, I had we had a couple of cats and a dog, and one of my responsibilities was to kind of take care of the cats. And so back then, the food they ate came out of a can, and it just so happened that my family had an electric can opener that was attached to the wall in the kitchen. So it was time to feed the cat. I would go and get a can of cat food. I'd put it in the electric can opener, and I would run that can opener in order to open the can, and it would make a sound. And as soon as that cat heard that can opener, it would fly in from wherever it was at and would be right at my feet, just kind of moving in and out between my legs and my feet while I was standing there, because it associated the sound of the can opener with being fed. Now, the problem was when my mother would fix dinner, if she were to serve anything that came out of a can, let's say like pork and beans or corn or whatever, and she used that can opener, there was that cat right there at her feet going in and out because that cat thought it was going to be fed. So the cat had associated food with the sound of the electric can opener. And by the way, any of you that have pets, all of our pets are conditioned. For example, right now, I've got a miniature Siberian Husky, and he loves to be walked in the morning. So he's my son's Husky, but I watch him during the day. So when he comes over, he comes down to my office and gets me, and he basically greets me and wants me to take him outside and walk him. And he will head up, and he looks behind to make sure I'm following. And as soon as I pick up the leash, he starts stretching because of what he's associated now walking with the leash. You can have fun with this too. I can give one more example from my life, and I think it was in November. My family went to Disney World for a vacation, and there was a new ride at Disney World. It was called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs Mine Ride is what it was, I think. It was a roller coaster. And it was one of these new roller coasters that in the middle, you go kind of indoors, and there's like a little show with animatronics in there. And it's pretty cool. Excuse me. And then based upon the movie, what they created inside was a scene exactly out of the movie of Snow White. And it was the mine scene, and when the dwarfs, it was the end of the day, the clock goes off, I guess the lead dwarf yells out "hi ho," and they all yell "hi ho" back, and he yells it again, and then as they start to sing that popular song which we've all heard, the roller coaster takes off, and you kind of have the excitement of, going down the hills and all of that. So what Disney has been really clever to do is they have associated the fun of the ride with that song. And so when we would hear that song, it would bring back the feelings of having fun on that ride. And so, sometimes just joking around with family members, one of us would go hi ho, and then everybody kind of recalled that fun moment. So what I did when we came home, I got on the Disney Channel, found the Snow White movie, and recorded it, and then put that scene up. So it's the exact scene that was out of the mine ride, and where they sing the song. And so I can, in roughly 10, 20 seconds, I can replay that song, and then everyone in the family that hears that right away, it brings back all the fun memories of having been at Disney World on vacation and having fun on that ride. So it was kind of a neat way to get everyone to have a feel good when just by hearing that song. So this classical conditioning, if you think of your own life, you'll find there are times from your life where you've been conditioned and I would say music is one of the primary conditioners. A tune pops up on the radio and suddenly you think of somebody you were with when you first heard that tune, or if you were in a relationship with somebody. So anyway, I hope you have fun with the motivation module. It's open now, and once again, great work on the hum module, and I hope you're progressing on the decision-making module as well. Thanks.